Seer Show is a live broadcast of truth seekers and believers, empowering the evolution of consciousness. Raphael and Celeste will dive deeper than the mainstream media while answering the mind's deeper questions and transforming conversations. They will have unique guest speakers who will share knowledge, tools, and techniques to create coherence in our mind, body, and spirit.
Damian, thank you so much for joining us on a different show, on the Seer Show. I have so many shows. How are you this evening for you?
I'm very well, thank you. Morning in your time, I think it is. It's evening in my time.
Yeah, it's 4:30 a.m. for me.
You're up early. I'm 6:30 p.m., so I've got
There
to
you
go and
go.
get dinner soon.
Yeah. So when today, I know we're going to talk about how we interpret life, right? One of the things that we talked about is having an easy life, but that does not happen for everyone, does it?
It's a lot of people don't do that. That's correct. We're having a number of discussions on that today, actually, in a couple of different forums, and it's certainly, most people really complicate the hell out of life, make it really, really difficult when it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't.
So,
But they're
I
listening
think
to.
anyone listening. I was going to say, I
Yeah.
think anyone listening, if you've got one of those devices that we communicate on, and you've got that device set to beep, jingle, do whatever it does, vibrate, when you get a message, then chances are you're probably overcomplicating your life. That thing should be on silent all the time. It makes your life much easier.
Without a doubt. I mean, so you're saying before we had cell phones, when we actually had to look for a payphone, if we recall what those even look like, we 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 had a better life, easier life.
The research shows that a lot of people are much, much more stressed out today. They are not as happy as they used to be today. And yeah, if you go, I would say yes, if you went back 30 odd years before we can probably have to go longer than 30. It was the 80s, the mobile phones come out with those big bricks.
Yeah, right. But not
And
everybody had one of
so probably a
those.
little bit longer than that. Yeah. But from that point where we didn't have that regular interruption, we were less stressed. I think, from that perspective, I grew up in a country town, so maybe I was a little bit biased in that regard. But certainly today, I know when I used to have my phone on alert and alerting me whenever something come in, I'm constantly reactive. I'm constantly reacting to the environment. I'm constantly on alert. And think about it, when the phone rings, when I notice it when someone else's phone rings that sounded like my phone used to ring. I'm glad we've got all these different ones because the different tones make it easier. But when there's a ringtone that's the same as mine, I can feel my body get tense. It's like, and so not having that in your own life with your own phone, because you can look at your phone anytime you need to, and I have regular times during the day, not specific set at 1 o'clock, but there's times during the day I'll look and go, okay, there's a message there, I need to respond to that, and deal with it that way. Then I'm in control, and my life is certainly much easier because of that and less stressful.
Right. So one of the things that people don't know what they can do with their phone is they can make it go on to gray mode. What that means is you look at your screen and it's black and white, basically, or gray, if you will, instead of all
Okay.
the colors jumping out you.
Ah,
So people didn't know they
I didn't know
can do
I didn't know
that
that
also.
either.
So
Yeah.
visually, your
Mm,
eyes are not stressed because
yeah.
we're bombarded every single day with
Mm,
all these messages coming at us. And you're right, you're holding your phone. So I did it for about 10 days. And it's funny because yesterday I said, let me go back to color. Let me see what it's like.
yeah.
And what that taught me, I use my phone a lot for work, right? I shouldn't say for
Mm.
work because I don't know if I ever had a job. But so for
I
me,
relate to that. I enjoy what I do too. It
yeah,
doesn't feel like work.
exactly. But I do need to have these alerts. I have people contacting me all different times because
Mm,
either I'm going to be on their show, they're going to be on my shows, So I said, let me try it for a couple of days. Let me try. I heard about it. I was like, pretty interesting. But what wound up happening is that I didn't have the inclination to say, let me scroll as much, right? Don't get me wrong. For work, I still have to scroll, right? So I have to look at, if I posted something, what does it look like? But here's the funny thing. I couldn't post color. So for me, I used to take extra time because I
Hey,
used to have different images that I would use. And I was like, they all look the same now. So it was pretty
yeah,
interesting for me.
it's an interesting format. I haven't. I guess it depends too which market you're playing in as well. Certainly, if that's where your niche market is hanging out, your need to post there is and that's relevant. But that's an active thing where you can log on, and I do that with a number of. There's a radio station I'm CEO of, and I hadn't used Facebook for a long time. I call it FacePage, and I actually, it's so long that my account had been deactivated. That's how long I haven't used Facebook for. But a lot of the people in that area, that's where they communicated with the groups, the community groups that I wanted to interact with, and so I did. I started up a Facebook page, a new one, because I had to. It was cancelled. But same token too, I didn't allow the alerts to press me. So I didn't. I can log in, and I do log in and check. I do a post, send it out, connect with the relevant people, and then I'll check what responses I've got when I'm there. But outside of that, I don't know what's going on. And I've noticed that with a lot of the people that are on there as well. They're on at certain times. They're not on there all the time, so they're not responding all the time as well. So that's where I wasn't sure. Would that interaction work? Because I was of the assumption that they might be all there all the time, but no, they're not. They're only tuning in every now and then. So that was an interesting observation, and that's where I went, okay, now I can still do the same thing I was doing. Alerts off. I log in and check what I need to check, respond to what I need to respond to. So I look and go, okay, so-and-so has responded to my post, or they've made a comment and tagged me in on that. I'll respond to them, and I have that connection that way. But I reach out using other forums as well. We do have some other communication outside of the social media, because it seems to be a lot of people are getting quite lonely in that space. It is less personal. And so we've been with some people, been having phone conversations, Zoom meetings, just very short ones, 5 minutes, just to have a quick chat and then move on. And that seems to get a deeper connection. And I found from a marketing perspective for the radio station, I was using it to help promote the radio station. And from those personal connections, these little 5-minute Zoom meetings, the people that I've been interacting with have become champions for my cause. So now they're out talking to their people about that. And I found that worked better than me just doing some posting on social media. So as far as impact goes, I found that connection worked much, much better. And I've got this, it's cool. I've got this really cool allegiance of followers that are wanting to go. They message me and say, via text message to my phone, because I gave them my number. Then they say, hey, what can we do to help support you? Tell me what else we can do. I want to help. And the lady said, look, I've got all this stuff to do, but I just don't want to bother you with that because I'm worried. And I said, look, just send it to me, email me, because then I'll get to it when I get to it. But she goes, oh, I've got all these great contacts that will support you. And so that's where I found that worked much better than just posting. So I think the whole turn the devices off is good for your time, because then you can do things when you're in charge, not reacting constantly and interrupting what you do, which I teach in the program that I have called Max Time, which we lose so much of our time and our effort becomes very inefficient because we're too busy responding to things, and then we're wondering where our day's gone because we're constantly responding. Whereas if you deal with it in that moment, when you get something and you go, okay, I'm going to check my emails now and I'm going to respond to them. And if you're not going to respond to it, don't even open it. because if you open it, read it, then you come back to it, you've got to do it again. So that's just a little effort management tip, that if you're going to do something, do it, finish it, get rid of it, and move on. Otherwise, don't touch it.
Yeah, one of the things, and I totally agree with you, and it's the way we use social media, because if we're using it because it's business related, yes. But a lot of times, and everybody on their phone, you can go on there and see how much time you've spent on social media, and it tells you which one you've been on, correct? So when we think about the amount of time that's spent, not only are we looking at it, our neck is getting, because our heads are going down, or how many times, have we seen people lose the world, if you will, and that little device becomes their world. And every 3 seconds they're looking at it. They're consumed totally. And a lot of it is maybe they're following that. Sometimes they're laughing or they're doing things. And I get the entertainment value, but it is sucking someone into this world of non-belief, if you will, right? Of not living. Right?
But
It's
if you
almost
don't
like
have,
when you
sorry, go ahead.
it's almost like when you see a child playing Xbox for hours and hours, and you're like, you need to go outside and play. Right?
It's one of those things where if you haven't got a purpose, you'll fill that void with whatever. Usually something that's going to give you a cheap thrill because it feels good. But if you've got a purpose, if you've got a reason, why do you get up in the morning? It's a question I was asked many, many, many years ago, and it took me a long time to even understand the question, let alone answer it. But why do you get up in the morning? And when you work that out, and I'm still at odds as to whether you have to find your purpose or you just choose it, because there's many times in my life where it wasn't about I had any idea of what my why was, and I've written a couple of articles on this, and I'm in the process of writing a book on it. That you don't need to know your purpose. So you don't need to know your why to do things. You just need to choose something and do it. And that's how I did a lot of things in my life. A lot of times it was avoiding something. I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to get out of school, and my dad said I wasn't allowed to leave school unless I had a job. And about 2 weeks later, the Army recruitment people came to the school, and I went, okay, I'm signing up. That got me out, but I got out and did something. And a number of things were like that, where I just chose. I didn't know why. I didn't spend time thinking about why. I just went, oh, that looks cool, I'll do that. And I did that, and I put a lot of effort into doing it. Some things I didn't. I just started it and went, nah, don't like that, and left it and didn't finish it. But it was actually, and that's where I wonder, do we actually have an ordained purpose, or do we just pick something that we do? Because we know now, and I know they didn't know it when they made the movie, the first feature-length animated movie, Snow White. And they're in the kitchen or in the house, and they're cleaning and they're singing Whistle While You Work. They didn't know back then that when you actually think a happy thought, you just have to think it. You don't have to do anything. You just think it, and your body starts producing dopamine. So you immediately feel good by thinking a happy thought, whistle while you work. Or in the case of Mary Poppins, another movie where they had a similar sort of thing. And in every job that must be done, there's an element of fun. Find the fun and the job's a game. When you realize that, no matter, and that's where I wonder from that purpose side of things, if you go, well, actually, I want to do this, I'm going to do it with gusto. And just that attitude gives you purpose. And so you wake up in the morning going, well, okay, my purpose, this month is, to do whatever it is, but I'm going to do it with gusto. And it's a choice. And from that choice, and we were talking about before, opening up the opportunity in front of you as to whether life is easy or hard. Because I think all the people listening have had a day where they've had a bad day, and they've woken up and gone, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, and it sucks. And just that thought process, it makes it hard. It's hard to get up if you're going, hey, I don't want to do this. Of course, that's hard. That's just the way it is. Whereas if you wake up and go, okay, today, I'm going to enjoy my day. Whatever it is I'm going to do, I'm going to enjoy it. And just that thought process there, immediately you'll start producing dopamine and serotonin.
I'm
And life
excited.
becomes easy.
I gotta be telling you, I'm super excited every morning. And the reason is because what if today's my last day? Wow. How do I want to live it? Do I want to have excitement in my life? Or do I want to be like humdrum and just like, oh, same thing like yesterday? So when somebody says to me,
Yeah.
how are you today? I always tell them exceptional and getting better every day. And they look at me. They're like, why
What
are
are you on,
you
man?
exceptional? I said,
Yeah.
because I have this inert feeling of there's more I have to do. There's so much that I get to do, not because I have to do it. I have the opportunity to do it. I have the opportunity to talk to you this morning for me, evening for you. But I was excited. The other thing that I do every day is I don't allow yesterday to determine my today. And I do that every morning, every night even, by going through gratitude before I go to sleep. I say my prayer, and then I go through my gratitude of I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for my hands that I even have them, that have feelings, that I have legs that I
Yeah.
can move. So I go through a lot, and I kind of I summarize it. Otherwise, I'd be there for hours, right? And then I wouldn't get any sleep. But I do
Yeah.
the same thing in the morning. So I do the same thing, and I'm like, thank you, Lord, for giving me the opportunity to even wake up, to have this beautiful life that I am creating for the water that's gonna come out of my shower head. So I had that opportunity to take a shower. I'm one of those crazy guys that takes a freezing cold shower. And
I
it's
sometimes do that because someone turns the water on while I'm
no,
in the shower.
no, I do it on purpose. I do it on purpose.
It wakes you up.
But I had a conversation with my son recently, and he goes, Dad, I take cold showers. I said, oh, congratulations. He goes, and he's got long hair. So he goes, sometimes when I'm drying my hair after I get out of the shower, it's like ice. I'm like, wow, you really do take it cold. I said, I do the same exact thing. My hair is not as long, so it doesn't get ice. So he goes, and it's such a great feeling. I don't like hot showers. He goes, I don't know how people do it. I said, well, there's different ways of of, of having your body feel good. But taking that cold shower, like you said, if somebody shuts the hot water off, you're like, whoa, it jolts you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and apparently there's a lot of health benefits for that as well. There's a fair bit of research out there. I haven't read it, but friends of mine who do this, a friend of mine in London, he recently installed a cold plunge pool in his house. And he does that, and it's got room for 4 people and friends. I think it's 4 or 5, but they get friends get together and they jump in the plunge pool for a bit. It's like seems to be a male bonding thing. So I haven't got to that stage yet. Although I'm in Victoria in Australia, so right now if I went down up the beach is probably about 10 minutes walk from my house. If I went and jumped in the ocean, it'd be pretty cold. So that might work too. But then I've got to walk up the hill, which might
It
not be as
would.
pleasant being freezing cold.
But hey, you don't have to pay for it to be cold.
No, exactly. Exactly. There's that component.
Talk about being in nature at that point.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have to consider is how do we jolt our lives to wake up, right? Because that's really what that cold shower does. It 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 triggers something in our body, in our mind, in our chakras, if you will. It lets us know, hey, be alert, right? Because you cannot take a cold shower and be sleepy for long, right? You may be sleepy when you get in it, but man, does that wake you up. I'm one of those crazy guys that the minute my eyes open up, I can like
Yeah.
go running. I can do whatever. And people like, some people are not morning people. And they're like, oh, I need my cup of coffee. I need this. I need that. I'm like, I need nothing. I am full of life. I am energized because of that feeling of I get to live today. I have the opportunity to make my life great. I also have the opportunity to lay in bed and do nothing and hit my snooze alarm 1,000 times. By the way, I don't know why I put an alarm on. I don't need it. My body's excited to get up. Sometimes, like this morning, I was up at, usually for the Sears show, I get up at, 3:40 a.m. Not this morning. I was excited to get up. I was up at 2:50. I was like, okay, I'm up. I might as well go do some stuff. So for me, it's always about the excitement of the day, right? How do we do anything? Good morning, Sanette. Thank you for joining us. And she's going to watch the replay. I love it. She's from South Africa.
Love it. That's awesome.
We need to, as she said, inspire others. When we are up in the morning, when we think about our day, did we plan our day, or did someone else plan our day?
Well, that's again what we were talking about at the very start, when we've got all these devices turned on to alert, even to the extent, my computer, you have the little box that says how many unread emails do you have. I don't have that turned on. I don't know until I look at my email box. And I look at it, because I need to. There's many times throughout the day I'll look at it, but I'll look at it when I choose. And that's where that gives me that control of the day, of control of me, of what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. It's one of those things. It's your choice. It's your life. And it's quite easy to do. And that's where, as I mentioned at the very start, people overcomplicate it by doing all these different things. And even when you look at very, very high achievers, take Warren Buffett for an example, his philosophy and his attitude towards goals was, he said, write out everything you want to do in your life, make a big list, write it all out, and then put a line under the fifth item and tear it off from there and throw it away. You only do those 5 things in your life. That's it. And just do them really, really well. And a lot of people, Steve Jobs was a person of 3s. He had 3 things. That was it. Focus on 3 things. And then when you've done it, move on to the next thing. Which is slightly different philosophy. And it's similar for me. I mean, when you're planning out your day, I said I use the program I have Max Time in my day, and I have a way that culminates or combines my diary where things I have to have, like this meeting that we're having. And then I have a big list, and it's on my website, damianandrews.com. There's a little downloadable you can get for free, which sets this out, how to set goals in your life. And from that perspective, I mean, the principle behind business goals and personal goals is the same. It doesn't matter. And
I'd love for you to, when you get a chance, put in the private chat, and I'll have it come across the screen, your website, so that people can actually go to it and get that free download you were talking about. That'd be cool.
No, that's fine. But so from that perspective, I gotta find where the chat is.
No, private chat. On your right-hand side, it'll be on your right-hand side.
Got comment. Private chat. There it is. Yeah. From that, it's a case of, as you said, how do you plan your day? Well, you've got to start at the beginning. You can plan your day without really knowing where you're going overall. It's kind of like you're planning to go to the city wherever you live, but you're not really. When I just said that, I gave the indication of where we're going, the city. So, but if you don't have that, and you get in your car and you say, okay, I'm going to drive to the end of the driveway. Well, yeah, that's a good effort. That's something you can do. But where are you really going? What's the point? And without that longer term objective, you don't, I mean, driving to the end of the driveway, what's the point of doing that? Why waste that time? That's where a lot of people get stuck. So you have to start first. If you're planning your day, you have to start broad, and that's where, at it's the 4 keys to attracting your goals, because you can attract them. It's like a magnet; they come to you. And so, from that perspective, for personal goals, money goals, 3 categories: money goals, growth goals, and fun goals. So your money is, how you're going to support yourself, look after yourself. It's really important. You need to do that. Some people say, don't, but all those people that I've said, I love there's a number of festivals around that talk about, sticking it to the man and stuff like that. And you look and they've got lasers and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, who made that? You guys didn't. You paid for it. But so from that, money is really important. And then, how you're going to, your personal goals, in the sense of, what are you going to learn? How are you going to contribute? How are you going to help people? What are you going to learn, as I said before? And then you've got to have the fun goals. I collect a lot of Lego. It's my fun. It's my Zen time, where you can, and I like the fact that they're in little bags and I had the original Millennium Falcon, which, by the time I got to instruction 30, doing my head in, because everything was grey and I'd had all these bags open. I couldn't find it. So I spent 2 days opening all the bags and sorting it all out. The 5,500 pieces or whatever it was. Ridiculous. Anyway, but you need to have the fun goals. And business, it's the same. If you're in business, it's a similar sort of thing. Money is obviously important. The second category is operational. How does the business run and operate and do what it does? How do we have a process for improving efficiency? How do we have a marketing process? All that kind of thing. And then the third one is your culture goals, which, what sort of culture do we have? And that relates to your values. Some organizations are more about having fun and that kind of thing. Others are a little bit more serious. And if you're a law firm or something like that, you've got to be a little bit more serious. It's just the nature of the game. And that's the culture you create. But that's important, because you need to attract the right sort of people that like that. There's some people that are like that they probably never were a child. And, they just like operating like that. And that's okay. Everyone, it's each for their own. But once you've got that and following that downloadable, you can then you pick the top 2 in each category. So for your personal goals, your top 2 money goals, your top 2 your personal growth goals, and your top 2 fun goals, and they become your focus. And then every day you just simply plan, what am I going to do to take a step towards that? And you do the important thing first. A lot of time people make big lists, which is not a good idea.
No.
Never make big lists, because what you'll do is just scan the list, find the easiest thing to do, and do that first. It won't be relevant to what you really need to do. So it's really important to, again, distill that down. And that's where I use my diary to plan my day. I have my diary with my meetings in it. And then in the time where I don't have meetings, I refer to my list of important tasks for that day. And it's in order of what's most important. I do that first. And when you do that, and you know this, when you go to bed each night, you just feel freaking amazing, because you look at it and you go, wow, look what I did. Yesterday I got up, I was a guest on a radio show at 6 o'clock in the morning. I can't remember, did a whole bunch of other stuff, went out, traveled, went to some photography with a friend, came back. What else to do? A whole heap. And then it got to nearly midnight. It was actually 1 o'clock by the time I went to bed. And it was an awesome day. I was full of energy the whole day. And I had a big sleep. I didn't get up early this morning. I didn't need to. But again, same token, today was started with, okay, this is my priority of things I need to do. And then I've got meetings in today, and including the meeting with you. And from that, feel awesome. Yeah, it's simple. That's part of what we teach in Max Time, how to do that. But one of the things, I can tell you that. But like anything in all the programs, we always start with the difference between teaching and learning. You can't teach somebody anything. If a person, it's the old adage, if you lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. People can only learn. You can't teach. And when a person's ready, they will learn. It took me a long time to learn that. I've a number of different organizations, including friends that were going to AA, and they took me along to some of those sessions. I thought, oh, it's cool. I'll learn something. And it's interesting how they say that, and there's a number of different programs like that where they talk about, well, okay, we're not here to give advice. It took me a long time to understand why that is. It's because you can't teach people. They can only learn when they're ready. And that's what we do. Is we have a program. Our programs are more about the changing of the habit, because that's the challenge. Once you're ready to learn, then you've got to put in place a process where you're changing habits. Because a lot of times, I mean, how many people have you met that will talk about the thousands of books that they've read? But have they implemented any of it? A lot of times you look at them and you meet them a year later and they're still doing the same stuff. They've read more books, but they haven't learned anything. Not only have they not learned, they probably know it consciously, and that's the difference that people don't understand. It's difference between conscious understanding and unconscious action. We think because we consciously understand something, we can do it. And we often have that experience. We go, oh, we think we know something, and we're bummed out because when we actually did do it, we were disappointed that we didn't do as well as we thought we did. And then other times we think we don't understand, and we surprise ourselves with how well we did. So conscious understanding has very little to do with performance. And that's where if you can teach, well, I shouldn't say teach, when a person can learn at an unconscious level, you learn faster and can implement quicker, because that's the point, is implementing. You can then do, and it becomes part of that ingrained process of changing that habit so that it becomes your everyday, what you do.
Yeah. I love the fact of you're not ready to learn until you're ready to learn, fully ready. It's like the old saying, the teacher will appear when the student is ready to learn. That's the
Even
only
when it's
time.
right in front of you. I had that with a client, and I have this with clients all the time. But this one example, there was a dispute. It was a $25 million dispute, so it's not small. And we're going through the process, and I said, okay, here it is in the contract. We don't want the mediation to fail. We're going through the dispute process. The mediation fails. Then the next step is court, and that's expensive. So we don't want it to fail. So let's set up a strategy. So we make the mediation drag out as long as possible to give us as much time as we can to resolve it. So we're going down that. We'd started that process. Then some other people come in, more senior within the company, and they brought some lawyers with them. And they looked at it and said, no, what we need to do is a one-day mediation. I went, are you serious? Is that what here? And I laid it out very clearly and go, yeah, we get that, but it'll be right. They're still in court, and that was 3 years ago. They spent nearly, I think, $14 million on legal fees. It was right there in front of them. There's a $25 million dispute. They've spent 14 on legal fees.
Oh, but here's the thing.
It was right there in front. It said it in the contract. If the mediation fails, next step is court. So what would the logical thing when you think about that is, let's not let the mediation fail so we can try and work this out together.
So who was the salesperson in this meeting, right? It was the lawyers.
Partly, but also to some senior
think about it, to their benefit. To their benefit.
100%. I mean, that's generally the case. Lawyers get paid regardless. I don't want to diss on lawyers too much, but I do.
Not at all.
But there is that process, but it was also a risk thing, and there was senior management ego involved. Most disputes that go to court, if we're going to go into that space, be 95 to 96% of them are more about ego than they are the law. The law is pretty straightforward. It's more about ego, and you could say that about a lot of disputes that you have. It's more about ego. It's about proving that you're right rather than trying to understand what the other person is. Because imagine, can you argue with someone or can someone argue with you if you're asking them questions? And that's where, the negotiation program I have is very expensive, but it's very powerful because we've got so many sources of power to be able to resolve a situation. And some of those key sources of power include listening, asking questions, and being in your own state of being receptive to information, which is a really hard one to get people across, because a lot of times, I mean, we've all been through that. I mean, you just have to watch our politicians to see that, and it's the same in America as it is in Australia.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
they're sitting there yelling at each other, no one's listening. They're having this debate, and debates don't resolve anything. It's just two, I would say, narcissists telling each other, you know, why they're right. There's nothing in there about understanding the other person's point of view. But if you go in there with that perspective, I haven't studied him a lot, but I've seen a few things with and Jordan Peterson is very good at that. A lot of times he will ask questions and try and understand that point of view. That's apparently what he's known for. And there's a few other people that are good at that, but that's one of the key things you want to do. Certainly in the process of negotiation, there's stages of negotiation to go through, and you want to be gathering as much information as possible. And that's the same in life, and it's the same with your partner. I mean, you're having your partners and you've got a grumpy face on, and you know you can go, okay, what's going on here? Ask questions. You're going to gather some information. Information is powerful. My school that I went to, its motto was "Knowledge is power." I think that's
Applied
true.
knowledge is power.
Definitely. Right. You need to do something with it, because power is action.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Well, you talked about reading 1,000 books and still doing no action on them. It's just, yes. And that's being book smart, right? Not life smart, right?
Well,
not
I've done that
taking
myself.
action.
I used to read I used to read a lot of books. And now when I read a book, I actually just read the one book over and over again until I actually have accomplished what I want to accomplish out of reading the book. But the presupposition is there that I went to that book for a purpose. I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to gain some new knowledge that I could then apply.
Right. One of the things that I do when I read a book is I take notes.
Yeah,
and so,
that helps.
Oh, it's huge, because I take from the book. Because every book that you pick up should give you something, right? So that
should.
I'm the student. I'm the student, right? That book is my teacher for the time being, whatever book it is, right?
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people sending me books. So I do the honor of reading the book, but I'm like, if I'm just reading the book to read the book, what am I getting out of it? Probably nothing. But if I read the book to understand, then I'm getting something out of it. So this is why I take notes. When I read a book, something, I'm looking for that aha moment in that reading, right? I am reading, I'm reading. All of a sudden, I'm like, that makes sense. Let me write that down. Right?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me write it down. Oh, I like the way that thought is. Let me write that down. It gave me a different perspective. Let me write that down. And then I take all my notes. And then after reading a book, I can take all my notes and go, this is good, this is good, this is good. Everything else, like you said, 5 things, 10 things, take those, and then I put them into a different book. So it's journaling, right? Journaling like a crazy person, because now I'm taking what makes sense and putting it in
when I
another
get
book.
my dad's books. It's full of notes as well.
So I actually journal into 4 books. First one is just quickly writing. Second is seeing what it is. Third one is pulling it out. The fourth one is a combination of all of it. And then that 4th book is where I've written so many books from it, from ideas, concepts, theories, and even my own thoughts that go into it, and my interpretation. And that's how, and people are like, well, you say you've written 90 or somewhat books. Where are they? I want to read them. And I'm like, oh, they're not published. They're not published. Why not? So I have a lot of people requesting me to write books. And I say, you know what? It's going to happen, but not until I'm ready for it. And they're like, well,
But
tell
what you're
me
doing there, that process of writing it out is really clarifying it in your mind, and that's a really big thing. And you don't even have to read a book. That journaling is self-reflection, self-understanding, and you can explore that and go, okay, what if? And ask yourself, to be Stephen King. When Stephen King writes a novel, he goes, what would happen if a guy was, caught in a house by this lady and wouldn't let her out? What would happen? And then he asked these what if questions, and then you have that, the book which later became a movie called Misery.
Great book.
Yeah, and it's that what
And what
if,
if
and
he
you can
broke
do
his
that.
ankles? Oh my God, that
Yeah,
was
I know
terrible.
that was just it was very terrible. But I mean, that's the case of, from your own perspective, this what you're doing there, that writing out, is really, helping you learn. In a way, it's kind of teaching yourself,
Oh yeah.
from that perspective, because they say if you want to, if you want to understand, it's about sharing that knowledge with others, because then you really get a whole different perspective. And having those discussions like we're having now, these discussions, the discussions where we talk with people about that and explore the idea. I love that on our, the podcast that I do called, we have subset called Pondering Life, where there's some people we get together and we pick a topic and we go really deep into that and explore it and go through it. That's on the share.care podcast. And so we really, that exploration of going, but to do that, you need to listen. And whether you're doing it with yourself or with someone else, because I do that when I do what I call gumping now. It's down here I'm at the beach house when I do these recordings, and I've got a really big lawn, and I got rid of the gardener and bought myself a self-propelled lawnmower, not one you sit on, but you have to walk behind it. But I don't have to push it; it kind of drives itself. And I'll go out there, and even if the lawn doesn't need mowing, sometimes I just need that space, and I won't
You
have
need
earphones
that
in.
mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I deliberately don't have earphones in or anything like that, and I'm being Forrest Gump, literally going up and down the lawn in my own thoughts, listening, thinking about paying attention to my thoughts, thinking about an issue that I might have, how I want to resolve it, what are the different options available for that, or sometimes it's just because I need a bit of peace and quiet. So I'll go out there and let my thoughts wander, depending on what I need at the time. And that's the presupposition that I use with books a lot of the times now. So I used to read a lot of books just because you were supposed to read books, and that's what people did. It's kind of like, why do people have a beer? Because that's what they do. And now when I read a book, it's the purpose of reading a book is there's something that I need to understand, to do with what my bigger purpose is. So I start with my mission, which is to enjoy life and share in the joy of others, to learn something daily that helps me overachieve, deliberately overachieve, and to confidently and compassionately act from my values of honesty, excellence, and understanding. So that's my overarching guidance that I have, and everything fits within that. And notice that's not a goal. That's a way of operating. And then from there, I have things that I want to achieve. So there's things that we want to achieve with share.care, which is the foundation I have with it. And one of the things we wanted to do was provide people with a different level of guidance. We had 10 principles, but then we're looking at what if, part of us personal responsibility, money. It's all, share, SHAIR means strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. And that's the objective. It's a global community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. But we wanted to go deeper. We're looking at that and we're talking about it and going, well, what do we need? What if there was some guiding principles? Yes, there's a principle of having, looking, being responsible for yourself, principle of looking after your health, those kind of things. But what if there's principles in how you operate? And we actually went back and we found where the inspiration came from was the Knight's Code of Chivalry. So we rewrote that. We did a bit of research and we rewrote that for a modern era. And you can get that at share.care, SHAIR.care / or / I can't remember which one it is, the code. And it sets out these things of, I'll laugh at myself and not take offense at the opinions of others. When you approach life that way, and it's not, how many people easily get offended now? And all that means is someone else is controlling you.
Right.
People don't realize that. They think, oh, how dare you say that? It's like, we do it all the time as friends. We butt each other up all the time, trying to stir each other up and get a rise out of it. But you can do that. that's one of the things we teach in the negotiation program I have, is how to emotionally manipulate somebody, because if they're off kilter, you can then have more control of the situation. And these are techniques that you need to know, because other people will use them against you. So you want to make sure that you know how it works and you have defenses for that. And that's what we also teach, how to have those defenses. Because when someone uses it against you, especially, you mentioned, we talked about litigation before, it's a right place for that, where it's all about intimidation and scare tactics and things like that. So, from that perspective, it's what are these higher principles that we can hold ourselves to, so that we actually stay and perform at a high level. And that's where the code came from.
Yeah, and definitely when we think about negotiations and even and you talked about even that case that went to court, and it's in court for 3 years, and it cost $14 million when it was supposed to be 25, right? And it's all lawyer fees. When we think about,
well, they haven't got to the point where they have to pay something.
Yeah, it's a
So
shame.
they have to pay something. My guess was they're going to have to pay between roughly about $8 million that they were going to have to pay. So now they've paid $40 million in legal fees, plus they're going to have to pay something
on top of the legal fees. Forget that. So it's going to be way more than they ever imagined. But and you talked about ego and how so many people allow the ego to control their lives. So when we allow ego to control our lives, is our life easy or is our life hard?
I think it depends on how you define ego, and this is where it's important. So I'm going to take the negotiation thing down to, your relationship with, say, your partner or your child, because again, asking your child to do homework or getting your child to do homework, that's a negotiation. Same principles apply. And when you're talking about ego, I mean, are we talking about, a lot of people associate ego with arrogance, and, I know everything. Well, that's not really ego. It's kind of a misconstrued ego. Having a healthy ego is important. That means it's linked to having a healthy self-esteem, that you believe in yourself, that you have that confidence in yourself. But also a healthy ego is one that recognizes, hey, I probably need to learn something here too. So you can go in and go, I'm freaking awesome. And I'd walk around every day thinking I'm freaking awesome. That's different to saying I know everything. I know I'm awesome, but I don't think I know everything. I used to. When I was a lot younger, I used to think I knew everything, and I was a bit of an idiot because of that. And that was an ego out of control. So today, from that perspective, it's, for me, having a healthy ego is important. I believe in myself. A great mentor I had, he was the managing director and chairman of BP. And every now and then we met every, I think about every 4 months or so. So it was, every now and then I'd ask him for advice via text message, and usually he would respond 3, maybe 3 days later, sometimes 4 days later, which I know he was doing. So I thought about the question before he gave me an answer.
That's awesome.
And usually the answer was, go think about it. But one day I had this urgent thing coming up, and I said to him, I sent him a message saying, I really need your help here. I'm a bit worried about this. Something to that effect I sent to him. And surprisingly, I got a message straight away. I wasn't expecting it. And he wrote to me and he said, Damian, I think you should back yourself that you'll make the right decision in the moment. And that was probably one of the most powerful pieces of advice. And that's ego, that you can back yourself, that you'll make the right decision. Not you'll be an arrogant prick, but you'll make the right decision. But the right decision has a presupposition that you have some very good, guiding principles, which is why I have the mission statement, why we have the code, that in those moments, I believe in myself that I will make the right decision. That doesn't mean I'm going to pound my chest and tell everybody how great I am. Sometimes I do, but not very often. So I put that out there to stir people up. It's part of that process. We've got to get a bit of a rise. But a healthy ego is a good thing. An unhealthy ego is, but it's like anything in life, isn't it? Anything that's unhealthy is not good for you.
No.
But if it's a healthy version of that, it is good for you. Yeah.
Right.
A healthy body is good for you. An unhealthy body is not good for you.
That's why when my statement of I'm not trying to tell anyone that I'm better than they are. I'm just telling them how I feel, right? I'm exceptional. But then I
Mm,
also put something in it, which
mm,
is I say, I'm getting better
mm.
every day. So when you look at that statement itself, it's not about I'm better than you.
But even
I'm
saying
talking
you're
about
exceptional,
me.
you're just saying you're exceptional. That's not a
I'm
comparison to
exceptional.
anyone else.
But I'm not it. I'm not
You're not saying I'm exceptional and you suck.
correct. I'm exceptional and I'm getting better. So
Because
with that in
and
mind,
this is
I
where
just I want to take a
go
quick
ahead. Yeah.
second and share with everybody an event that we're going to have on May 12th, and I know you're going to be part of it. So let's take a quick look.
Mm.
Are you ready for an unforgettable experience that will inspire and motivate you? Look no further than Heroes Rising. This virtual event will showcase some of the speakers who will grace our stage in July. Join us May 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Heroes Rising brings together a lineup of incredible speakers and thought leaders who will share their wisdom and insights on how to become the hero of your own story. With topics ranging from personal development and leadership to entrepreneurship and social impact, this event has something for everyone who wants to make a positive difference in the world. Whether you're an aspiring leader, an entrepreneur, or simply someone who wants to be inspired and motivated, Heroes Rising is the perfect opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals and learn from some of the most influential voices in the industry. Don't miss your chance to be a part of this transformative experience. Get your tickets now and join us for Heroes Rising on May 12th.
Sounds exciting, doesn't it?
It does sound very exciting. It's awesome. I love that you're doing this.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Looking
lot of
forward to
fun, and
July too.
we have some great people coming on. I know you're going to be there with us.
Mm.
One of the reasons I'm doing this in particular is because I know that everyone coming is going to share not only knowledge, but they're also going to share with their heart. And I think
Mm.
that's an important aspect of where we all need to come from, right?
Mm.
When we make a difference in the world.
It's really important to from that, and I wonder, and I think most people have that. The people that I've met, sometimes people lose it, they cover it over, but in their core, I think people really do have that, this heart of caring about others. You just see how people operate. They care about other people. I'm yet to meet someone, if someone went up to them and said, "Hey, I need a hand. Can could you help me out?" And I've posed that question to a lot of people, and no one has said, "No, I wouldn't, help out someone if they asked for help." Which I think that indicates, as a people, we have this wonderful heart inside, that we are all amazing people, and we just want to, help each other and help each other grow and live in a wonderful place. And I've had the good fortune of traveling to 40, at least 44 cars. Stop counting. I've got to go through and double check again. But I went through my photos and they got those little GPS tags on them. It's 44 countries. And everyone there, they all wanted to enjoy their life. They all wanted good things for the kids. They wanted to have fun with their friends. We're all very similar in that regard, and it makes for a wonderful planet we live on.
This is a wonderful planet, and a lot of people, don't get me wrong, there is a lot that needs to be fixed in our world. But
We're moving forward.
I'm so happy to be part of it, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you look at today, compare the average person's life today
Mm,
to even 50 years ago. When you look at, go back to the 50s, when millions of people dying of famine in China and Russia, Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine's terrible at the moment, but that will sort itself out. Well, we will sort it out, but the people will sort it out. But I think at the flip side of that, it's going to be something different, because people, I mean, you had, after World War II, it was like, we don't want this anymore. And a lot of steps were taken to avoid another world war, which is the case. And now we look at it and go, well, hang on a minute. We need to be careful about when we look at things and what we're doing with things. When you look at Halliwell, I mean, Halliwell pulled out of Russia on moral grounds. Halliwell, this massive weapons manufacturer, has pulled out of Russia on moral grounds. We live in a completely different world than we did 20 years ago. It's like, no, we need to do things differently. And people are awake to that. And we grow through these environments to become and go, yeah, we're better off when we work together to solve problems, because that creates innovation. And innovation is where the power is today, where we are not in a zero-sum world anymore, where we were years ago. If you wanted to be better off, you had to plunder and you got those resources and someone else missed out. Innovation is making a bigger pie so everyone can have more.
Mm. When you say everyone can have more, so you're talking about in a world where we're more givers than takers then, right?
And that's the point. Yeah, it's in your own interest to be a giver. You could help someone get a doctor's degree who then goes and finds the cure to cancer, which saves your child. Giving helps you. There's a whole bunch of ways that flows back. Then you can add the whole component of how you actually feel better as a person, not just physically feel better, but you are physically healthier. There's so much research out there that shows giving makes you a healthier person mentally and physically, and no doubt spiritually, however they measure that. But certainly mentally and physically they can measure. And we know that giving makes you a better person, and obviously it helps the other person as well. So giving, it's in your own interest to give and help others.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting when people always say, well, I don't have enough to give. Well, then you haven't given enough when you think that way.
Well, it's a self-worth thing. You can only give what you believe you have, not what you actually have. You can always give more than what you have if you don't, than what you believe you have, because you have so much inside you. But some people don't recognize that, and that's part of the process that we're on, is to help people have that awakening, to go, actually, I'm this big ball of light inside. And this is the hard part, is for us to recognize infinity, because love is infinite, energy is infinite. How do you measure that? You can't measure it. That's the concept. You can't measure it. It doesn't run out. If you have two children, you love one with all your might, you can still love the other one with all your might, and you can still love your partner with all your might. It's not like you love someone, you have to love the other person less. And it's a comprehension to get to that thinking, that point of understanding that love is infinite, energy is infinite. I can continue on and do all these things. I'm not missing out by helping someone. I'm actually gaining and making the whole world better, making it better off for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. When we think about exactly what you just talked about, making the world better for everyone, right? It would change the world entirely if more people thought that way. Damian, I want to thank you so much for being on here today. It definitely brings some thoughts to mind. It's like, how do we negotiate? How do we mediate? How do we communicate? Right? It's all these different ideas and concepts. And how do you have an easy life?
Well, there's simple principles. Just follow them. Don't complicate it. Life is easy.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again for being here and sharing those principles. And I know that you're going to be on our stages and you're going to be talking about different ideas, business concepts, and yourself. You're a giver. This is why you and I are connected. So thank you again for being on the SEER show today.
Thanks, Raphael. Wonderful being here. Thank you.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon, okay? Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing and exceptional day. Take care, everybody.
You too. Bye.